Welcome to Faulu TV. My name is Nelly. Today we are privileged to have one of our own, Dr. Gideon Moseti Nyakundi. We're going to share with him. Welcome, Doctor.
Thank you, Nelly. Thank you for having me in Faulu TV. It's a privilege to be with you today. Thank you so much.
So today we want to know more about our guests. As you heard him say, he's a doctor, and he's going to tell us a little bit about himself, how he started back home and here. So, on to you, Doctor.
Thank you so much. Again, as I said, my name is Dr. Gideon Moseti Nyakundi. I am from Nyamira County. I was born and brought up in a remote village in Manga. I went through Sengara Primary School in the village there. I remember life being of a great challenge, where we used to go to school, running to school without shoes, and the challenges that as children go through when they are going to school in a remote village. I was privileged to go to Kisii High School, of course with a lot of financial difficulties, and then I was blessed to come to the US under green card program, and that's where I started my journey as a leader in healthcare. So in this journey, as anybody who comes to the US, I faced a lot of challenges. I remember working in a UPS store where we used to earn actually about $80 an hour. And then going to healthcare, working as a personal care attendant, and then a nursing assistant, until when I found my dream in healthcare technology, which I discovered by an accident. I remember up in Minnesota when a young child came to the hospital who had a stick, an accident that went through his muscle. And then when we were preparing this child to go through x-rays, then I realized there's something called clinical engineering, which I really loved. And then I joined a company which makes pacemakers. Pacemakers are small things that you get inserted when you have a problem with your heart. So I joined Medtronic. I worked in the pacemaker making factory. I mastered how to make the pacemaker, and then I moved on to work with Cardinal Health to work in the manufacture of a medical ventilator. Also here I mastered how to make a ventilator, and most manufacturers of medical equipment, they want you to learn one process. But by virtue of working hard, I was able to master the entire process, and then I became a forensic studies. Like when a ventilator kills somebody, I can be able to investigate and to know exactly what happened. Then I remember during the Obama time, during the Great Recession, I lost this job. We were laid off, and then after being laid off from work, I discovered that I had a ton of experience without a certificate. This was a wake-up call that made me to go to school. I started my career in school in clinical engineering. I got my first degree in clinical engineering while working in a dialysis factory, dialysis chemicals and factories that are common that makes those machines. Finished school, my first degree, and joined Mayo Clinic as a clinical engineer. So many of our people might not understand what's the role of a clinical engineer or a biomed. A clinical engineer is somebody who repairs medical equipment or designs medical equipment and sustains to service hospital systems, engineering equipment, that help doctors to diagnose people, to treat people, and to prolong life. You might think of a thermometer to be a small thing, but this thermometer, if it's not well calibrated, you cannot tell if somebody has COVID. So we maintain things like thermometers all the way to MRI machines. Anything in between there, that was my job. So from there I joined this department, and I realized that actually about 99% of the workers were Caucasians. Our people, especially people of color, did not know about this career, but it's a very interesting career. So I felt like this was need to go into leadership so that I can create a pathway for our people to go into this profession. I remember I went back to school while working at Mayo Clinic, and I got my second degree in healthcare management. At that point, I was taken by Hennepin County Medical Center, and I was trained on how to maintain actually almost all life support machines and systems, and I became an open heart surgery technologist. Meaning when they open somebody to do open surgery, I maintain all the machines that sustain life during the procedure. And during that time I was back in school. I did my master's in healthcare administration and also my second master's in public health. When I finished, I was called by the state of Colorado, Denver, where they were looking for somebody who has the background in clinical engineering and in leadership to lead this team in Denver. So they called me from Minnesota to Denver, and I got a job as the senior director for biomedical and clinical engineering. That's the position I have currently. As we speak, I'm in charge of medical systems and equipments in the city of Denver, where I oversee the main campus and with about 25 community healthcare centers. I also oversee more than 21 school-based nurses. I also oversee public health facilities like jail, they have clinics, and I also oversee the DIA, Denver International Airport medical equipment. So it's a huge undertaking, but I'm happy that I'm doing the job that I love most. Basically, that's my background. That's how I have grown from that small boy, young boy, who was running very early in the morning, bare feet to school, and coming back to where I am as a clinical leader, as a clinical director in charge of a department in Denver Health. So basically, that's who I am, and also I can say that at the same time I've been in school, and I just finished my doctorate degree in the same capacity. So I don't intend to go back to school again. I'm done with school, but still learning does not stop. That's my history.
Okay. So I can ask you, and I know most people have this question. You are a doctor, and you are a doctor in a medical field. Do I expect you, are you a doctor like the doctor who would come and see me if I have a heart problem, or your baseline is just on equipment?
Very good question. So when you are a biomed, let me start from a clinical engineering or a biomed. What does it take to be a biomed or a biomedical engineer or a clinical engineer? This is somebody who is between a doctor, a nurse, and a patient. Because a doctor, a medical doctor, cannot really function without a clinical engineer. Doctors depend on clinical engineering to make decisions on how to take care of patients. nurses the same thing. And also from the patient point of view, the patient to be able to understand himself or herself, we have to use medical equipment. So a clinical engineer is somebody who is in the center between a doctor, medical doctor, a nurse, and a patient. We are just right in between there. And also there's a component of IT, information technology. So this is a very complex profession where you understand little bit of everything. You have part of the doctors, you have to understand what the doctor needs to treat the patient, and you have to think like, how can you extract information from a patient, process that information for a doctor to understand. For example, when you take blood pressure, the reading is 120/80. In the biomed world, that's not how we understand. We take pressure as a component of a reading, then that pressure we change it into a digital number that now the doctor can say this patient is 120/80. But on the other side, a clinical engineer is a person who has enabled the doctor to understand that this pressure is within this threshold. And also as a clinical engineer, I understood what technology am I going to use to extract this information from a patient. It can be temperature, it can be pressure, or anything else. Even temperature. When you say that this patient, the temperature is 37 degrees, that's a digital number we have given the doctor to read. But in our understanding, we know that there's something that we put on a patient that expanded this length, and when it expands this length, we call that one 37 degrees, and we tell the doctor, hey, it's that 7 degrees. So doctors don't understand this world, but biomed understands the entire spectrum of care.
Okay.
From the patient, from the nurse, from the doctor.
All right. Okay. I might ask this question, and I'm sure everybody out there has this question. In this, we're talking about where we have all kind of, with different races. And you have the white race, we have the black African Americans, we have the Hispanics, and those. Is it true when people say when you go to any field, the payment differs, the wage rate, depending you're white, black, Caucasian? Is that true? Do you find those challenges in your work?
It's a very challenging question. Also, before I even answer your question, let's look at promotions. How do you get promoted from regular service to leadership? For example, when you look at the population of our nurses, nurses of color, or say African nurses who work in the US, how many are into leadership? It's almost zero. Why is it so? Do we have disparity? The answer is yes. Because in the US market, the owner of the business wants people to work, the people of color to work and bring revenue. But when it comes to leadership, it's a big challenge for a person of color to grow into leadership. You can see where you're working as a nurse, you find that the manager is a Caucasian, but all the nurses are people of color. Why is it like that? So for us, the people of color, to grow into leadership, it takes a greater mile for us to be successful as leaders. Let me use my personal example. If I went to school as a clinical engineer or a biomed, and I did not transition to go back again to school into leadership, I don't think I could have grown to be a director. But when I did my career in clinical engineering, and I wanted to be a leader, a manager, or a director, I had to take an extra mile to go back again to school and develop another career in leadership, where I did another degree in management. I did my master's in administration and public health. Combining the two, then I become unique in that it's very hard to find somebody to compete with you like that. The same thing with nursing. If you want to grow up into nursing leadership, you are a nurse, you are an LPN or an RN, you have to look at what kind of other training or schooling you can go and bring in together so that you stand out, you become unique so that you can grow. Coming back to your question about payment, it's true, it's the cancer, we call it cancer in the US, whereby in most of the organizations they don't disclose how much they are paying their staff. But slowly things are changing in that now companies, hospitals are being required to make public how much they are paying their employees, the low, the medium, and the high. However, still, you might find that somebody, a person of color, can start work, and then you start from the low threshold. And then the same qualifications, a Caucasian can start work, and then you find this person being paid higher pay. Those disparities are there. So as leaders, what are we doing to break this barrier? In most of organizations, like in my organization, we have started the initiative of educating our leaders, of looking at these disparities and looking at how can we promote people of color into leadership, and how can we pay them so that they are at par with the Caucasians. And then it's not only on theory, it has to be in practical. In most organizations, you find that the leadership is, say, 99% Caucasian, but the staff is 75% people of color. So by looking at those different entities, not just looking the whole thing together, because if you look at the whole thing together, the leadership is very, like, if you have 50 leaders and you have 300 people of color, and then you put them together, the percentage still will be low. So you have to look at these people like, say, how many leaders do we have? There are 50. How many people of color and that leadership? So you don't look at the whole pie as one pie. You look at that pie in terms of sections. And then you look at the same thing in terms of payment. The same thing with women versus men pay. So you have to look at every cluster, how many women are there, how many people of color, and what is the pay disparity. And then you grow it as a unit. So we people of color must be involved for change to happen. We cannot just sit on the fence and wait for change to happen. We have to be part of the system to change the system.
Okay, thank you so much. What advice would you give someone who is aspiring to be who you are? Everybody would love, you're in the land of opportunities, and you don't just come here and wait for opportunities to find you. You go out, find them. So what would you advise someone who's maybe coming, who's just here, planning to grow up and really want to be somebody in the future?
Well, Nelly, the first thing I can say is that in any profession that you want to excel, you must love that profession. In some instances, I have seen parents telling their children, like, hey, I want you to be a doctor. Hey, I want you to be a pilot. And then they force their children to take what they don't love. Most of the time, they end up being mental case, or they end up failing, or they hate their parents. So the first advice is, do a career that you love most. It doesn't matter whether it's painting, It doesn't matter whether it's being a doctor, it doesn't matter whether it's being a janitor, or it doesn't matter whether it's being an engineer or a pilot. So long as you love that career, you'll be successful. The second thing is, we being people of color, we have to work extra hard. Take my example. I love the profession of clinical engineering so much, but I wanted to be a leader. I did not just sit there. I had to go an extra mile, bring another career to back me up into leadership. So when you are a nurse, as I said, or you are a teacher, and you want to grow into leadership, look at the thing holistically. What can you do to add to this profession that can make you unique? Bottom line is, you pray your God to help you grow in your career that you want to grow, work extra hard for it, and love that career. You'll be successful.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Don't need that.
Yeah, okay, Doctor. Thank you so much for encouraging us. You know, in every job, in everything, there is good and bad. So that you've encouraged us. So what are the main challenges that you find in your job?
Well, my job is very unique. Unlike other professions, number one, working in healthcare is a calling. You cannot just wake up one day and say that you want to work in healthcare, be successful without a calling. It's like preaching. It's like a preacher. Nobody can be a pastor or a preacher. It's a calling. So healthcare is also a calling because you are touching life. In every day in my profession, there are so many challenges that come with uncertainties. You might go to work today and you find that an MRI machine has crashed down, and there's a line of patients who need care. What do? How do you work pretty fast to ensure that this patient who is depending on this care gets that service? That's number one challenge. Number two challenge, as a person of color, I have to go an extra mile. Sometimes you can go somewhere and then there is that perception that, the person of color, what are the ideas you have? So bringing your ideas across the board for people to be able to listen to you and follow those ideas can be a challenge. So persistency will be able to put you on the map, to be able to express your policies, your concerns, and to have somebody to give you a listening ear. And also the profession is changing so fast because of technology. So all the time you have to be with books. You have to be updating yourself all the time, so that as technology is changing, you're also changing to catch up. Because now people need very high level care. So you have to be moving fast as the demand is also moving pretty fast. And also growing your staff. So you have to come up ways of how you grow your staff to be able to be, like, one day you'll not be there, somebody will be there to do that job. So as you work, you have to look for ways on how do I grow my people? How do I grow my staff? So that they can be able to help you out and they can be able to do exactly what you want them to do.
Thank you so much for sharing with us today. And I understand the sky is the limit for you. So you're aspiring for a government position back home.
Yes.
Please tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I'm thinking about it because I've received a lot of concerns from home, from Nyamira. There's a lot of people who have called me. The people who have seen my work, they have seen me on the internet, they have seen me on my website, they have seen my profession from LinkedIn, from the job I do, the work I have done for the US government, how I have served in the senior leadership. And then my people are calling me that there are so many challenges that they want me to go and help them, especially in healthcare. I have been thinking about it, and I feel like healthcare should be key in my county or in Kenya. And also there's the issue of jobs. How do we create jobs for the young people? And also how do we develop our economy and especially our agriculture? So there's a calling, yes, it's ongoing, it's getting even more louder, and I'm thinking about it, and pretty soon, of course, I'll make that decision. And I want to tell my people that I'm listening to you, I'm listening to your call, and yes, as you are calling me, nitaitikia, I will respond, and I will come so that we can partner.
Thank you so much, my listener. You've heard a story from Dr. Gideon Nyakudi. The sky is the limit. And as the people, our friends, our families, we want to make it happen. Please pass the word back home, and whoever is within the constituency, I wish you were all voting. We would all vote for him. We want to support someone with a vision and someone who has expertise on the different background. You heard him. He's someone who can stand up for our people and who can help out. We wish him the very best. Thank you so much, Dr. Nyakudi.
Thank you, Nelly. Thank you so much. Thank you for having
so
me.
Bye, and we'll see you.